share the screen, and I'll do a little bit of talking here at the start. Okay, so I just always direct people back to the CELPIP website. Probably you've had a chance to look at it. What I want to focus on this morning is, or afternoon or evening, is on the CELPIP website under Prepare for CELPIP, the test scores. So anytime that you're on the CELPIP website, in the top right-hand corner, there's 3 bars. When you click on it, it shows a number of categories: Prepare for CELPIP, Prep Overview, Test Scores, Free Resources. So I'm under this section on test scores, and on this section, it gives some information about how the exam is marked. So there's a chart for writing and a chart for speaking, then which you can download or open up. Then it talks about a score comparison chart of what are some sample questions, responses, and an analysis from the CELPIP examiners, why they got that mark. And you can see here it goes from level 12 down to level 0, and they have it for the speaking, and then they also have it further down for writing. So let's just take a very quick look. Last week I've already looked at several different levels. So if you just look at one level, sometimes it's a little bit confusing. You have some ideas, but when you compare like a 7 with a 9 or a 6 with an 8 and a 10, and you just read through their information, you can start to see what the teachers are looking for. So under level 9, which is what all of us are aiming, if you're looking for immigration purposes, that gives you the maximum points. You can see that they have here a section with the, with the level, oh, I have it, okay, that's why. I was like, where did it go? So there's 3 parts that they show you. They show a description of that level, they show a sample responses, and then they show a response analysis. And so at this level, you're presenting information, supporting ideas with complex reasons. You're using common or context-specific vocabulary, context-specific. So if you're in a restaurant, you're using words and phrases that would be used in that environment. If you're in an office talking to a manager, you're using vocabulary and information in that environment. There's some speeches and idioms. You're able to, under listenability, that means how the teacher is hearing what you say. You have some control of complex grammatical structures. So you're not just giving short, simple sentences. You're able to combine sentences and give adjective clauses or noun clauses. So instead of just saying Trevor is a teacher, I would be saying Trevor, who is a teacher, is sick today. However, he prepared the materials for the substitute. So you're giving more details, more information in the sentences. Generally, your rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation is fluent. And so rhythm is how, in English, we have a kind of we call it a cadence. We have a rhythm, or like a drum beat, dun, da, dun, da, dun, as we're speaking through the sentences. So I'm not taking long pauses. I'm not hesitating from time to time as I speak. And I'm focusing my pronunciation on the right words or parts of the words. And then with task fulfillments, you can adjust speaking style and tone to a range of audiences and situations. So that's just highlighting as you're interacting with, like I mentioned earlier, you're in a restaurant or you're in a shopping mall, you're talking with a neighbor, or you're in an office setting, you're talking to a manager, you're talking to a coworker. Each of those has, they're similar, but there's sometimes differences with your formality or how you're speaking to a manager, for example, compared to speaking to your neighbor. I'm not going to go into as much detail with the sample responses. What they've given you is 2 tasks. And in the first one, you're giving some advice about a decision. They have the listening, so they have the task that you can listen to, and then they have a transcript of what that person said. So you can listen to a sample answer and read through sentence by sentence what that person was saying. And then they have a interesting picture, which is often in later in the speaking exam, they give you a picture, usually in part 7 or part 8, and then you're describing what is in that picture. So with both of these tasks, they give you the audio sample and they give you the transcript of that information. And then what I help students focus on is then they respond and say what was good and what was not so good. So under content and coherence, they talk about task A, some of the words that they were using, some of the linking words, the phrases, the vocabulary, how easy it was with listenability, and how they were able to fulfill their task in giving their answers. So again, when you just look at one level, some of this might be a bit confusing for you, or it's not as familiar for a student. But when you look at several levels, you start to see the emphasis or the patterns of what the teachers are looking for. So today we want to go through task 2, task 3, and task 4. And if you haven't, so I'm just jumping over. So we were under test scores. There's another page on the CELPIP website about test format, and they have the different sections with more details about each section. So this would be if you haven't seen this already, this is where you would scroll through, or you would move down, and it talks about enlisting, what are the different parts and what's the emphasis in reading, the different parts in writing. So I've gone through those in different videos. I'm not going, and in different classes, I'm not going to explain much detail, but here under speaking. So last week we did a more detailed introduction to what teachers are looking for, and then we did task 1, giving advice. Today we're going to practice task 2, task 3, and if we have time, we'll practice task 4. So task 2 is talking about a personal experience, and we'll look at a sample in a minute. And I'll have you guys give some examples and practice. And then task 3 and 4 is similar because you use the same picture. In task 3, you're describing what's in the picture. In task 4, you're explaining what do you think different people in the picture will happen or do next. And so we'll look at a sample from that. So on the CELPIP website, they talk about the test scores and how it's marked. They talk about the format, and there's different information on that section. And then they have a section under preparing for the CELPIP where you can take a sample test. So I'm not going to click through the different sections here, but it goes through and gives some general information. It gives you actually a choice between 2 different tests, test A and test B. And I've already gone to the speaking section in the exam. And so we're going to look at this question. For today, I'm not so worried or focused about the time, but you can see with the time, you're going to be given either 30 seconds or there's 2 questions that you're given 60 seconds to think about the information. And then with the recording, you're going to be given for most of the tasks 1 minute or 60 seconds to be speaking. Although with some of the, with 2 of the sections, again, you'll actually be given 90 seconds. So you're trying to give your answer in this time frame. So let's look at the question that they have given us here. So you have a choice. It's a pretty broad choice. It says, talk about a great time you had with a family member or a friend. Maybe you can talk about a party. So like a graduation party, or maybe a wedding party, something like that. Something that you did together at school, or a time that you traveled with a friend, or anything else you can remember. What happened and why was it memorable? So what we'll do is I'll give you about 45 seconds to a minute. So during the practices, I'm not so focused on the time, but let's think about what you would talk about. I'll give each of you a chance to speak for about a minute, or even if it's a little bit longer, a minute and 10 seconds, minute and 20 seconds. and then I'll give you some feedback on your speaking for this section. Okay, so take about a minute or a little bit less, and then I'll ask each of you to share your great time you had with a family member or a friend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Tofik, I'm going to ask you to go first. Don't worry, like I said, so much about the time, but just give your response of what you would say. But if it's a long, like if it's a minute and a half or longer, then I'll stop you. But if it's 50 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute and 10 seconds, I'll just let you talk and summarize your information.
Okay. Okay, so I remember I have a great memory with a friend of mine. It was on my first year at the university.
Yep.
It was my first time in the capital, Algiers, the capital of my country.
Yep.
And with this new friend of mine, one day at the weekend, we wanted to wander around the neighborhood of our university. So just to locate some stores and see what it looks like.
Mhm.
So we just started walking. We saw some stores and some restaurants, some grocery stores, but it was a small neighbor, so we just kept walking to the next one and the next one. We
Okay.
ended up by walking around 8 kilometers. We found ourselves in a very well-known place in the Algiers called Bir Khadem, and it has a big market. We wandered around that place. We liked it. We bought some clothes because the prices were really good. After that, we eat it in a small pizzeria, but it's like a traditional type one. And the funny thing that we call it here the pizza of the poor people.
Okay.
It's a cheap kind of pizza, but it's really tasty. And for me personally, I think it's even better than any other kind of pizza. But after that, we found that we are not tired and that we have the rest of the day in our hands. So, and since we didn't know the area, we just started walking and walking, and we ended up by finding ourselves in the downtown of the capital,
Yep.
which is, I think, another 8 kilometers more than that. And we didn't realize that until we found the beach in front of us, the sea coast. There is the main port of Algiers in front of us. And actually, to be honest, we were surprised because usually walking only maybe 1 or 2 kilometers used to make me feel tired. But that day, I think since we enjoyed our times, we couldn't feel that tiring. And I remember this experience because it was my first time wandering and visiting the cattle, and also it was my first experience with that friend. His name was Hakim, and we had such a great time. And uh, today, I still remember that day as if it was yesterday.
Okay. Good.
That's all for me.
Okay. Okay, and so yeah, I won't make comments right away. Alaha, let's hear your uh, description of a time that you did something with a friend or a family member.
Okay, so my great time was actually in my birthday with my best friend Ola. She is my best friend, close friend. We've been together, I don't know, maybe 20 years.
Hmm,
We went out to party, and I find some friends sent us a gift, sent for me a gift. It was a cake, but the cake was sour, so we couldn't eat it, and we want to throw it away, but actually we was afraid. So our friends see us around the area that we are throwing his cake, his present.
okay,
So it was for us a challenging. The most remarkable things in that day, the how much we laugh. Yeah,
okay,
I've never ever remember any day I laughed that much.
okay.
So eventually we managed to throw the cake, and we went back, and he called us asking how was the cake was. So I forced to lie to tell him that it was great, and the test was great. Thank you for your gift.
Yeah,
So for me, this is my remarkable day I ever remember with my friends.
okay, good. Okay, so as we look at both of those, um, Tofik, how long do you think you spoke for?
Mm, I would say a minute, minute and a half. Uh,
A little bit longer. So
Really?
yeah, so I
I
didn't,
felt,
yeah, no,
yeah.
I didn't cut you off, but you actually spoke for almost 3 minutes.
Wow,
Um,
I didn't felt that time.
it didn't feel that fast, did it?
Yeah,
No, and
yeah.
so this is one of the first areas where students struggle with in the speaking for CELPIP. With IELTS, you have a conversation with another teacher and you're interacting, and there's kind of natural pauses, and then the teacher might ask another question, but it's more going back and forth. Here, as the timer gets to the 60 seconds, then it stops and it just doesn't record and it moves you to the next section. Um, so in the first 60 seconds, you talked about being in the capital of Algeria. Now it's a
Mhm.
well-known neighborhood. You wandered around and you bought some clothes. And then about the pizza and walking more, going to the beach, the seagulls, all of that was excellent information, but it wouldn't have been recorded.
Sadly,
Uh,
yeah.
so what as you practice this specific area, what I advise students often is to think of it like an extended paragraph or maybe two short paragraphs. So you have a main idea, and they've guided here what happened and why. Let's go back to that. So why was it memorable? And then give your examples under that format or under that. So, what happened, and then give 3 or 4 points or details, and that'll probably take about 20 to 25 seconds. Why was it memorable? So, another 3 or 4 points, and then give a summary at the end of that. Um, Alaha, your speaking was good. It was about a minute and 24 seconds,
Mhm,
and you had the different parts of, what's the information, what was a couple of details, and how you guys laughed and, had issues with the cake because it didn't
mhm,
taste well. And then you
mhm.
came back and you summarized with, you talking to your friend about the cake or the person that sent you the cake. So because it was a little bit longer than a minute, but could just be compressed or shortened a little bit, and then it would fit into that 1 minute time frame.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so with our class today, I'm actually going to go into the next task because over the month of October, I'm going to help students with each task. Um, but this is the type of thing that students can practice on their own where they're looking at a question, they take a few, like 30 seconds to write out a couple of ideas or to think in their mind what are 3 or 4 main points, and then they practice and record yourself using your cell phone, or if you're using WhatsApp or Facebook or some other mechanism to record. And that way you don't always have to stop yourself at the 1 minute mark, but you can start to get an idea as you answer these different questions. How long approximately do you have? And how do you get a nice paragraph or a nice structure with an introduction, a few details, and your conclusion, a concluding sentence within that 60 seconds? Okay. So let's look at a second task. And we probably won't get enough time to go to task 4, but like I said, it's similar to task 3. So we'll spend most of the next few minutes on task 3, and then I'll talk briefly about task 4 because of how they're related. So in task 3, you're going to be given a picture, and you're going to describe some of the things that are happening, and you're imagining or identifying that the other person that you're speaking to cannot see the picture. Okay. So in this case, well, sorry, and I'll just highlight at the top there, it shows you have 30 seconds to prepare, and then you have 60 seconds to respond. So
start speaking now.
So yeah, in the practice test, they give you, they have a timer that counts down for your preparation time and then your speaking time. So if we look at this picture, I'm just trying to move it around so that I can make sure that we have all of it in the picture. So typically with these types of pictures, you want to identify a couple of different parts of the picture and then talk about those in an organized way. So I'll get each of you guys to talk about it, of what you see and what your responses are. And then I'll give some feedback, and then I'll give some more details from that. And so Tawfiq, I think I'll start again with you. Here I will be a little bit more strict with the time. So if it's a minute 20, a minute 25, that's okay. But if it's longer than that, then I will, then I'll just stop you and move over to the other person. Okay.
Before to start, should we describe it as a picture? I mean, is it okay to say in the picture we can see something like that, or just describe the situation?
Yeah, no, with your first intro, you could say what I see, or in the picture, or the picture I'm describing. You can use those phrases to get started and then go into details about the picture. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Go
I can
ahead.
start?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the picture in front of me, I can see a classroom. Just outside at the door, we can see the teacher. Probably it's the principal who's talking to her. So she left the class. Though there is some two pupils at the board. They're trying to solve like an equation or something like that.
Yeah.
But the other student at class, each one of them would do something different than the others. We can see at the first row, maybe the three or two pupils sitting in the first tables are trying to read their books or focusing on solving the equation. But the one sitting at the left, it's a girl. She's trying to make fun of her friend sitting behind her. At the second row, we can see two other pupils, two girls, a redhead and another one. They're trying to read the book, but the pupil next to him, a boy, he made like a plane. Further behind them, two other girls are just talking, and the three boys at the corner left of the classroom are playing some kind of video games. One of them actually is playing a video games. The two others are just watching him.
Okay. So I'll stop you there because we're almost at a minute 40 for that. Okay.
Okay.
Elahi, it's your turn.
Yes, in the picture I see there is a classroom full of students, but what is noticeable in this class is it's mess. There's no order in this classroom. I think the principal came to the teacher, and in the door, the principal speak with the teachers, and maybe he gives her some instructions. In the classroom, you can see two students next to the blackboard is writing something on the board, and the other students, each of them doing things together. We can see two girls reading a book, two girls chatting, and I think there's a boy in the back playing with his phone or a game.
Mhm.
Some girls are teasing her friends, and in the first two places, we can see people are very disciplined and reading their books.
Okay.
That way can I describe.
Okay. Good. Okay. So yeah. So Tofik, you spoke about 1 minute and 40 seconds, and Alahi, you spoke just under a minute, which is good. I think it was around 57, 58 seconds. So as you're describing, you can tell just by our practice, you're not going to have a chance to describe every single detail that's in the picture. And so as you guys started, you started strong by talking about that it's what's happening because the teacher is out. That's kind of the main focus. So I think you guys were right to start there. Because the teacher is distracted talking to a person, a principal, another teacher, we don't know, that's what's causing the disruption or the students not paying attention in the class. And some of them are reading quietly, some are working on the board, but others are chatting, teasing each other, playing a video game, watching, etc. So what I would look at is explain about the teacher, and then maybe just talk about the room in sections. So in this case, as you guys did, and you, Tofik, you mentioned in the front row, there's these boys at the front of the class, towards the back. Alaha, you also spoke about different parts and sections within that, and just work your way in, whether you talk by rows or you talk about the front of the class, the middle, and the back, just some sort of organization that's guiding you as you're speaking and interacting. But both of you guys was good. It was clear. You gave some descriptive phrases and you talked about the different parts and what was happening within that. So I'll just comment briefly on part 4. Let me just, I'm not, oh, I have to go up. Okay. So with part 4, you have the same picture. So in this case, it's the children and the teacher. But here you need to make a prediction. What do you think will probably happen next? Now, most times students just focus on the immediate next. So they'll say the teacher will come back in the classroom and all of the students will listen to her, or she'll start scolding them or getting angry with them, which is fine.
Start speaking now.
Which is good. But sometimes you can also add things that maybe are unexpected. You don't have to just say, oh, this boy will stop playing video games. This child will put away the airplane. These two girls will stop talking. That's expected, but you can also give some unexpected things. So the teacher, for example, the teacher will come back in the room, the students will start paying attention to the teacher because the teacher gets a bit angry, but then the fire bell will ring and they have to go outside the class, or the class will end and some of the kids will go next to mathematics and some of the kids will go to phys ed or something like that. So I think that's what's described, or what makes a difference between a lower response and a higher scored response. It's not just saying the specific,
Time is up.
it's not just saying the specific details of what every single person will be doing, but it's also getting maybe a little bit bigger picture of other things that could happen once you've talked about the smaller things that could be happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think it's clear, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So for today, we won't have more time to practice. I'm already kind of going a bit over. So Tofik, I know you've been in some of my classes before, but what we have is in the morning session, we have 30 minutes for CELPIP speaking, Then we, in October, then we're going to switch over into aisles. So that's a different link, which is on our Facebook page. I can also put it in our chat room here quickly. But I switch because some students want aisles practice, but they're not taking CELPIP. And then in 30 minutes, we'll be having some practice with conversation classes. So I'll put the link in the chat for the aisles, and then I'll switch quite quickly over to the aisles because I want to get started with that. Sorry, I just need to, I have the little bars at the bottom of my screen and it doesn't always, there we go. I can't always connect with it. So in the chat, I've put in the link. You can also find it in our Facebook group. We will have another session of this in 3 hours with CELPIP. So at 11 o'clock in Winnipeg time, there'll be another CELPIP session. I'll go through the same information, but it'll give you, if you are able to join us, it'll give you another chance to practice some of these questions. And as I said, we'll have Isles speaking right now, and then we'll have a conversation class about life in Canada, and we're talking about shopping and buying things in Canada compared to other countries. So thank you guys for joining us for this session, and hopefully I'll see you in some of the sessions in the next couple of hours.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Trevor. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.